Marco Rubio has begun his first day as a slashy, working as both the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State. He began this morning's meeting of NSC directors with a message: more change may be coming. We wonder, does that mean a new permanent NSA? Over the weekend, Donald Trump mentioned Stephen Miller would be good for the job.
Stephen Miller's at the top of the totem pole. I mean, I think he sort of indirectly already has that job. You understand? Because he has a lot to say about a lot of things. He's a very valued person in the administration, Stephen Miller.
Joining us now, NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube. So, Stephen Miller as NSA, what would that mean? How would policy change?
Yeah, so, I mean, Stephen Miller's name definitely has been rising to the top as a possible replacement for Mike Waltz. Of course, it's not clear at this point, Katie, whether Secretary of State Marco Rubio will even leave that job anytime soon, or whether he may be seen as a longer-term replacement or at least an interim national security advisor for some time. Now, Stephen Miller is currently the deputy chief of staff, but he also holds the role of Homeland Security Advisor. And what's very clear over the last several days of this back and forth over who will ultimately replace Mike Waltz is that the president sees Stephen Miller's current role as deputy chief of staff as senior to Mike Waltz. When asked specifically about whether he could replace Mike Waltz as national security advisor, he even said, well, that could sort of be seen as a demotion for him. It also really underscores, Katie, that the domestic issues, specifically that of Homeland Defense and the border, the southern border, are seen as a priority over the idea of some of the more classic national security roles or national security policy issues like Iran, like the issue, like Ukraine, and more of the foreign policy issues. So at this point, Miller's name, again, still seems to be at the top of the possible replacements, but it's not really clear if President Trump even wants him to move to that role yet, Katie.
So I guess that makes me ask the question, what does he see as the national security advisor's role? And Marco Rubio is now doing double duty. Is he actually doing double duty here? Does the NSA do anything in Trump's White House?
And Katie, I would even add to that look, the national security advisor is generally seen as the person who sort of brings together all of the national security apparatus in an administration and really serves as a point person, almost a senior person over them or someone who brings them all together. What's been clear in these first 100+ days now is that that's not the way that President Trump is running this national security apparatus. And in fact, issues, again, like what Stephen Miller is running, like Homeland Security, those are really rising to the top over some of the more classic national security advisor roles here. And that is no more obvious than his comments about how it would be potentially seen as a demotion for Stephen Miller, Katie.
All right, Courtney Kube, thank you very much.